It's 24 degrees Celsius here in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. Good morning and welcome to your daily dose of sunshine, Sunrise Daily. I'm Maupe Ogunyusuf.
It's hump day, it's Wednesday, middle of the week. I'm Kayla Megwa, welcome to the program.
Indeed, we're starting off with an instruction from the NCAA, which has now been, which has been in the news for a while now. They now have a directive. When next you're boarding an aircraft, you're going to be asked or demanded to switch off your phone. No negotiations, no flight mode. It's simple, switch off your phone. Well, they have been holding a meeting with stakeholders and seeking more professionalism from members of the workforce around the aviation sector. And we bring you excerpts of what transpired at that meeting.
The unruliness of air passengers, as well as the unprofessionalism of aviation staff in Nigeria, is the focus of this meeting organized by the National Civil Aviation Security Committee in Abuja. Critical security stakeholders, lawmakers, airline operators, among other aviation staff, are all present for this meeting.
Security Committee
In his welcome address, the chairman of the committee, who is also the Director General, Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, speaks on the essence of the meeting.
As a regulator, the NCA has seen the urgent need to call the responsible parties together to ensure our respective roles and responsibilities are not only understood as detailed in several documents, but carried out professionally and effectively. Today's engagement is not about figures, appointing blame. No, that will not achieve the desired result. It is rather about listening, and awakening us to our individual and collective sector.
Lawmakers who are also present lend their voices to the subject matter while preferring solutions.
The challenge we have as a people and as a nation is one of discipline and lack of professionalism. We have a responsibility to discharge our duties as and when due, and as we often say, without favor. We have enough rules, we have enough regulations. What is left is executing those rules, carrying out those regulations to the best of our ability in such a professional manner.
Other issues relating to devices on board were also brought to the fore, and a resolution was reached by the committee stating that all devices of air passengers on board must be switched off. Hopefully, this resolution and others reached at this meeting will help eliminate the disturbing behavior of some aviation staff as well as passengers. From Abuja, Kumbi Aboluwade, Channels Television News.
Well, those are the new rules. Not flight mode. No, there's no other way to do it now. You switch off your phone. I don't even know why this is such a big deal, because I'm glad for the time when my phone is off, so I can rest and not pick up any calls. But that's not the only thing that we're going to be talking about this morning. Of course, that is an advisory for the people out there. There are quite a lot of other things going on in the country. Of course, we had Humanitarian Day yesterday, and then of course there's this story from Anambra State. But helping us to unpack all of this is Mr. Andrew Mwata, who's a constitutional lawyer and social commentator. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Yeah, good morning, Kayla, and good morning, Maupe. So nice to see you this morning.
It's good to see you. We miss you in the studio. I wish you were in here. Okay, so let's start off with the NCAA and this rule about switching off your phones on flights. Some say this is a very good thing. At least everyone knows what the rules are now. And if you're boarding any flight, you know not to break the rules.
Yeah, thank you, Kayla. I think it's an idea whose time has come, because the NCAA is the body empowered by law to make such regulations, because what the Federal Road Safety Commission is to safety on the road is what NCAA that's the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, is to air safety in Nigeria. So I think it's a simple instruction. Switch off your phone. It's just a 1 hour interval for local flights. And again, it is an international law by the International Civil Aviation organization. It is a global one. There's no proper way to do the wrong thing. So I don't think putting your phone on flight mode is safe, right? Because not all devices, can stay within that, because it's a device. And again, most people don't put off their phones.
Yeah.
They hide under flight mode to use their phones. That's why there's a strict law, aviation law, that now in Nigeria, you must put off your phone.
Indeed.
That airport incident where somebody was told to put off her phone and she refused, that incident would have been avoided. It's as simple as that.
Yes, it's pretty straightforward, because we get it. You need your phone in the airport sometimes, so that you can get your flight schedule. You can be able to, if you did it online, you need but at the point when you enter that aircraft, when you're boarding, now everyone knows to switch off your phone. That's the rule right now from the NCAA. So let's not have anyone else misunderstanding what's going on.
Well, some people will say it's not just so much. It's not so much. The rule has always been there.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
It's enforcement.
It's the enforcement of that rule that was the issue.
So what exactly are you hoping will change with regards to professionalism? Because that's one of the things that came to the fore with regards to the conversation that's held yesterday.
Okay, thank you, Maupe. I think looking at that,
I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can hear me.
Okay, should I proceed?
Yes, by all means, go ahead.
Okay, looking at that incident, from a legal standpoint, you want to say who is at fault. First, the fact that the passenger refused to switch off her phone, and even when he was to disembark, became unruly, that is totally unacceptable. But the way and manner in which she was evacuated from the aircraft, the fact that it was even male airport or the airline staff, instead of allowing able-bodied female, either officials of the airline or officials of the fan, and it is not for me acceptable. It does not even matter. It does not matter the manner of addressing, though a manner of addressing is also reprehensible. But you don't drag a woman like that. God forbid, she's a victim of something. She can pass out. In law, we say you take a victim as you find him or her, the eggshell rule. And imagine if you had such a situation.
Particular matter, but it's one of the matters that we're considering this morning, this issue of trying to finally sanitize and make sure that the aviation sector is set in order. There are a number of other issues. The by-election, the noise over it has still not ended. There are those who believe that if we're to go by the by-elections that INEC conducted over the weekend, then, there might not be much to look forward to in 2027. I wonder what Mr. Nwata would say about that, because there have been complaints. Well, some people will say, what elections have we conducted
like we talked about yesterday with our guests, it's quite simple. Where people win, the justice was done. It was done fairly. Where you lose, you were cheated. And it's something that we've gotten to understand about politics in this country. But you see, this particular by-election also made us realize a few things about a lot of the political parties that we're looking at right now. In fact, the ADC was actually a very big topic with this particular by-election. And I think maybe Mr. Nwata would like to weigh in on that. Let's talk a little bit, Mr. Nwata, about the by-elections. And of course, this complaint, everyone, if you win, it was done well. If you lose, they cheated you. And then, of course, the conversation around the ADC and how they performed in this particular election as a pointer to how we might be looking at 2027.
Yeah, thank you, Maupe, for that question. The by-election, just like in the United States of America, when they have midterm elections, give Nigerians an understanding of the present politics and the future politics of 2027. The so-called major opposition party, the ADC, their performance is what I can describe as infra-dig. It was as if they were not in that election. Not even a single seat was won by them. Like in Edo State, for instance, they had a senatorial candidate. He didn't win a single ward. So for us, it appears that the race in 2027 will still be between the APC and the PDP. But in my state, Edo, PDP performed very poorly. You know, in some wards, PDP did not score more than 500 votes.
Well, there are people who, you know, by-elections are
and I mean, it leaves so much to be desired.
Mr. Enwata,
of a party that was once
sorry to interrupt
party.
you. By-elections are sometimes, you know, the publicity around them usually is not very loud. I don't know when INEC started making noise about, you know, about conducting these elections. It's unclear how the political parties themselves, which also have a responsibility to let people know that such an election was coming up, it's unclear how they too alerted citizens or would-be voters to come out to vote. So sometimes it might not exactly give a very clear picture of what is expected. But in terms of the processes, which is where a lot of people look to, there have been complaints about the processes. There have been complaints about vote buying. There have been complaints about the fact that, well, I don't know if it's a fact, but there have been complaints about how in some instances where the processes went well, the people who were declared winners were not the actual winners. So I do not know for you if, looking at the process of what transpired over the weekend, regardless of whether or not, you know, which party won, do you think that we can rely on INEC and its processes as is currently, you know, will I say constituted, to deliver on good elections come 2027?
Mark, I think I disagree with you in the area of the publicity part you said, because I know these vacancies, most of them existed last year, and so much talk, so much pressure was on the need to fill these vacancies. Like in Edo State, the 2 vacant positions, you know, happened on the 11th or rather 12th of last year, November last year, when both the governor of Edo State and his deputy, you know, came into office, and their seats automatically became vacant. And of course, the people in these 2 constituencies have always yearned for an election to fill those vacancies. The governor, as the person who left that office, went around all the wards in Edo Central to campaign. So there was more publicity. You know, the same thing with the deputy governor who also campaigned. Even the governor also campaigned in the deputy governor's constituency. So there was so much of publicity. And in the election, people came out to vote. The PDP candidate in Edo Central defeated, or rather the APC candidate in Edo Central defeated the APC candidate with 105,000 votes. That's huge. I don't know of other states, but I can speak for Edo. The by-election that took place in Edo Central was peaceful, was credible and fair.
Oh dear. Well, he says he doesn't know about other states, but he's talking about Edo State. Let's not even get into the fact that in some of these states, it would appear that, you know, the dominant parties, the parties in power at the governorship level...
Swept.
Swept the polls. If he says that it was free and fair, we haven't heard any complaints from the opposition candidates. Perhaps, you know, we'll wait to hear and not complain on his behalf if he thinks that the process was fair and fair. Mr. Enwata, you keep going in and out, so we're hoping that this time around you'll stay for good. So let's talk a little about this crisis. I know it's not in Edo State, and royalty in Edo State is certainly very well respected. No one toys with the Oba of Benin. But I don't know what you make of this dispute between the Oni of Ife and the Alaafin of Oyo. It would seem that historically there's been some rivalry of sorts between the two of them. Matters that even in some instances have gone to court. But in this is something that people were hoping would rest, especially with the new generation of Obas being, is it anointed now or appointed, as the case might be, you know, coming to the throne. As the case is, as a matter of fact, the Alaafin of Oyo was only newly coronated. So what do you make of this dispute between the Alaafin of Oyo and the Oni of Ife over a title that has been given a son of Yoruba land?
Yeah, thank you, Maupe. It has two sides, and I want to view it from those two perspectives. We have to look at it from the traditional and historical perspective, then also look at it from the legal perspective. So from the traditional perspective, I know for a fact, because I studied history and I did a bit of it under customary law, both as a student and as a law teacher, that the Oni of Ife is the spiritual leader of the Yoruba nation. There's no doubt about that. Because if you trace the ancestral, background of Yorubas, they draw their background from Oduduwa, who first potted from above in Ife. And as such, the position of the Oni, Yorubas generally regard him as their spiritual leader. And when you now view that particular office from a legal standpoint, he's the head of the Council of Chiefs of Osun State, where his throne is situated. And as such, he has the power, by virtue of that Oduduwa, authority, to grant certain chieftaincies, even if it bears the toga of Yoruba land, right? Because all Yorubas are descendants of Oduduwa, and the Oni represent Oduduwa on earth, as it were. So I don't think I agree with the laughing of Oyo, because he's just the royal father of the Oyo people, of the Oyo Empire, right? Which I don't think extended to Lagos or elsewhere. So for him to make those statements, you would not blame him, because like the position of Are Honor Kankafu, which Otumba Gani Adams occupy now, is usually conferred by their laughing, but by any stretch of the imagination, it does not extend to other titular positions. And if you look at history, you discover that the Western House of Chiefs, neither the Oni nor the Alafin had exclusive chairmanship of that position. Unlike in a place like Edo, where the Oba of Benin sits as a live chairman by tradition of the Benin Traditional Council. So every state has its own nuances, but I don't think we're in the Western region for the Alafin to think any traditional ruler is under his authority, because they belong to two different states, Oyo State and Osun State. And I think these issues will be resolved by historians who I think have maybe different perspectives. But what I've stated is the traditional history I know and what the law says.
Well, I do know that at some point the Oyo Empire extended as far as Dahomey, which traverses Lagos, and
just like the Benin Empire.
Exactly, and the Benin Empire as well. So let's not go into history. My standing on history might be faulty, but this dispute certainly is not looking good for Yoruba land, and we're hoping, as you've said, that this will be resolved one way or the other. Maybe. Do you think it will be one of those disputes that will never get resolved? I mean, that rivalry will always be there. However subtly it is, it shows itself.
I think it's a dispute that is rooted in nation's antiquity, as old as time, because, you wonder when you have traditional rulers, having almost equal status, there's bound to be that, dispute, that supremacy battle. And I think it will be there for a very long time.
I mean, when it comes to Yoruba culture.
The irony is that they belong to two different states, so they should just maintain their fiefdoms.
I mean, when it comes to Yoruba culture, my goodness, I mean, this particular story, we'll see how it unfolds. The Oni has said he's not going to respond, but the Alafin says he has the exclusive rights to give titles in Yoruba land. So we'll be watching to see, but the deadline, he gave him a 48-hour deadline.
Which expires
today. And it expires today, so we'll see what happens by the end of today. Now, let's take it to Anambra State. This story about this core member, and it's not just her, her and a few other, I think there are about 6 in total. This Agune Chemba, this local security outfit in Anambra State that has been, commissioned by the governor. It does a lot of work when it comes to security in Anambra State. Well, we're seeing these visuals. It's been going on for a while. This conversation has been going on, where they came into this house. They said they were chasing cultists or criminals or whatever, and then they ran into this area according to the Agune Chemba people, and they went in there and the treatment that was meted out to these core members who identified themselves. They brought out their cards. They said, we are core members. Look at our uniforms. We're not criminals. Who are you? There are so many questions that have come up about that. And then that disgraceful act of tearing her clothes, tearing her, stripping her naked. I don't know what part of the security protocol calls for the tearing of people's clothes. And these are core members who are not from Anambra State, by the way. So it's brought a lot of questions. The NYSC DG, we're trying to hear what he has to say about this. The Anambra State government, the police, where are these culprits? We heard that they have been arrested. Where are they? Can we see them? Can we know where they are? There's so many issues around this particular matter. So, Mr. Nwata, just talk to us a little bit about this situation and where the numerous balls that were dropped in the process.
Yeah, thank you, Kayla. I saw that video for the first time yesterday on TikTok, and I won't tell you, as a father of a daughter and a husband to a wife, that I felt that dehumanization that youth corper was subjected to. What is her offense? She was serving her country. And people who claim, and I think the governor of Anambra owed Nigerians an explanation. You are the chief security officer of that state. I saw in BBC Pidgin a response by his special advisor on community affairs. Do you know that a thing like that can create a civil war if that person is not from that state? You don't treat a human being like that. Just as I mentioned earlier, the eggshell rule in law says you take a victim as you find him. The way and manner she was attacked, it was a case of attempted murder by people who claim to be security personnel. We talk of unknown gunmen in the southeast. Those people were unknown gunmen, dressed in mufti. You are pursuing, was she a cultist? And even the law does not allow you to do that. Section 36 of, 6 of our constitution says every person, 5, I beg your pardon, every person accused of a criminal offense is presumed to be innocent until his guilt is proven. And even Section 35 talked about dignity of a human person. That lady was not properly treated. And if I were a member of our family, we will bring a fundamental rights action against the Anambra State government, including the Oguneba group under their watch. We were asking for 5 billion naira. You don't treat a human being like that, unprovoked. So I think the governor of Anambra should explain to Nigerians what has happened. Because these people, they are not vigilante. They are criminals. They are animals. They don't deserve to even bear arms. This is a democracy. Section 14 sub 2 of the Constitution says the security and welfare of the people is the primary purpose of government. In that area, the Anambra State governor has failed. And I think he has to explain to Nigerians, because that is not just an injury to that lady or to core members in Nigeria, but to the collective sensitivity of women,
Nigerian people.
Womanhood.
Mr. Nwata, you know, we understand in every security outfit, whether it is the police, the military, there'll be bad eggs. We get it. Now, the issue is, after this event happened, after this terrible, disgraceful thing happened with Agune Chamber officers, what has happened? Where are the people? They said they've been arrested. Where are they? There are rumors that they are not even in the state anymore. So it's the actions afterwards that I want you to be able to speak to. So yes, we've seen that this was disgraceful, it was terrible. But where are those who are supposed to be held to account? And you mentioned the governor, which is a very important point. What's he doing about this? Because justice has to be seen to be done, not just telling us we've arrested them or investigations are going on. We need to be able to see that justice is being done. What do you think the governor should be doing differently so that people do not, because he does have an image to protect as well. What should the Anambra State governor, Professor Charles Soludo, be doing right now about this situation?
Thank you. Remember, we had a similar situation in Edo. And what did the governor of Edo State do? He disbanded our security outfit. This incident took place in July. But I can assure you that nothing has been done to disband our security outfit. And even it brings to question the need to regulate the activities of vigilante groups in Nigeria. But I think if it is state established, it is the duty of the state to also regulate, profile, and train the security outfits. And I'm not one of those who support state police. When you see things like this, it brings out the danger, the mischief behind state police. Because the federal police we are managing, we've had the EdSARS protests and what have you, to now allow people who are not properly trained to manage security in itself is a threat to security. And as such, we expect action on the part of the Anambra State government. We expect action on the part of civil society groups in Anambra State, because I know they exist. They should take up this matter before the National Human Rights Commission. I expect an action to be filed in court, and I expect the Inspector General of Police to come into this matter and ensure that those people are properly prosecuted and they are tried for what they did. It was a case of attempted murder and nothing more.
Well, Mr. Anwata, I know that certainly this is a conversation that is ongoing. As a matter of fact, you understand that the NYSC, as a body, as an institution, has now reacted to this matter. They say that they are saddened by the unfortunate assault on one of their female corps members by some operatives of the Anambra State Vigilante Group in Oba, Idemili South local government area of Anambra State. They say they strongly condemn the unacceptable and dehumanizing manner in which the operatives conducted their operations, irrespective of the initial justification for the purported investigation they set out to carry out at the facility where the corps members were accommodated. They say they trust that they hope they get justice for the corps member in question and any other aggrieved party. And they say that the necessary administrative procedures are underway to assist the corps member in question in managing the physiological and psychological trauma resulting from the unfortunate incident. It's like a 6 or 7 paragraph statement that they have released, and I think that certainly we'll be looking forward to the coming days to see just how strongly the steps the NYSC takes in this regard. A lot more to discuss with you, but we're totally out of time, Mr. Enwata. We have to thank you so much for speaking with us this morning. Mr. Enwata is a constitutional lawyer and a social commentator, and has been speaking to us from Benin. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, we're taking a look at the state of the polity right now and assessing the performance of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the last 2 years plus that he's been at the helm of affairs in our country, Nigeria. I do know that, the polity is heating up, and, there are big conversations around how he's done so far. If you speak to members of the opposition, I guess that their reactions might be mixed, given the fact that you also have one prominent member of the opposition in President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's cabinet. But let us speak with Mr. Sunday Dare right now, who's Special Advisor to the President on Media and Communications. It's good to see you in our studios. Welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you, and good morning.
Good morning. Let's start with this. It's not very popular, but oftentimes, one of the ways you can look at whether a country is making progress in a democracy is when you look at the state of human rights. Whether a country is making progress in a democracy is when you look at the state of human rights in that country. And just yesterday, the National Human Rights Commission published its new findings on the state of the rights of people within Nigeria. And I think the last one we had seen was in May 2025, when they reported a 5% increase in complaints compared to April, with a total of 275,256 complaints. And they also spoke to something that they said, which I found very interesting, was on the issue of religious freedoms, right, which had come up before now. And I think that Nigeria had to speak up to defend, particularly internationally. And here's what they had to say with the issue of religious freedoms.
Based on our analysis, it is safe to say that the freedom of religion came under heavy attack in the month of July from Edo State, where gunmen kidnapped and killed students of minor seminary, killing the security officer, abducting the three. The 3 seminarians are still in captivity as we speak. In Plateau State, 2 evangelists were killed. In Kaduna State, 5 worshippers were killed during church meeting. In Niger State, we also experienced kidnapping of a pastor. And then in Benue, a church leader and 3 others were killed in attacks in Gwa East.
So that's a report from the National Human Rights Assessment Dashboard. I think that's actually for the month of July, not May. So what would you say to those who are looking at our country right now and saying that, look, every month on month, it does appear that in our democracy, yeah, what some people say it's still relatively young. but should be growing and making progress. We're still not seeing, will I say, a commensurate increase in the state of human rights in our country?
Well, I think the starting point would be that this is a vast country with a huge population. And then you look at the size of our police force, because when it comes onto human rights, yes, right abuses do occur, like you find in other countries. Nigeria is no exception. Not with our data in isolation. You deal with global statistics. And it will surprise you what you find, even in America. You have the ICE right now, immigrations, picking illegal immigrants. We see rights violations. I think what's important is are the institutions of state in place and are they functional? Do we have justice being meted out as soon as these violations occur? And I think that when you look at the data now compared to previous years, especially from the military era and post-military era, we've seen an improvement. But again, a diverse population, a huge population for the matter, a police force that needs to be increased in number. Because what helps to reduce these rights violations is first, the security forces. Second, the judiciary. Does the institution in place help to address this? Because when you met out punishments in a timely fashion, when cases go to court and they are dealt with, people know that there will be repercussions and the rights will reduce. Then you talked about the Christians, religious rights. And I know that when 3 months ago we had the issue of a Christian that was supposed to be killed by hanging, you recall. Of course, that has been stopped for now. This issue came up in the U.S. Congress, and the Foreign Affairs Office did respond and came out with data. These are exceptions. They are not the rule. And when you look at Plateau, for instance, I think they were talking about Plateau.
Yeah, they also spoke about Plateau.
I was born in Plateau.
Yeah.
I grew up, I lived over 3 decades in Plateau. The crisis in Plateau has been on for over 2 decades. Every single president has come on. And even just this morning, we've also had reports about what happened. Now, if we have to talk about the issue in Plateau, we will not leave here this morning. But I think sometimes to have peace, you need the stakeholders from all parties and sides to really sit down and agree to a peace plan. The government can only do much if you have the stakeholders come together. And I think what we've seen in Plateau is, to a large extent, the Christians talk about the atrocities. I found out that you have IDP camps in Plateau. We have Hausa Fulani people who also have casualties and deaths and villages burnt, just as you have IDPs for the indigenous people. So it's a tit for tat, and the government comes in as a mediator. Now, unless these two sides really agree to a peace plan, the killings we are talking about, and I don't think that there's a deliberate attempt to obliterate the Christians. What is the fight about? The farmer-elders clash is mostly about land and economic rights, etc. It boils down to economic issues.
So, well, the words of the NHRC official who spoke there, he said that religious rights came under heavy attack. I mean, just this morning, we're looking at daily trust newspapers. Katsina Mosque killing, we were attacked during prayers. I imagine that for the next month, when the NHRC is doing its dashboard again, this will feature as a religious rights that has been infringed upon. Because how can people be praying and they come under heavy attack?
Unfortunately, that's been a commentary for over 3 decades in this country. This issue of religion, and it's because of the role religion plays in our polity. In a way, we have elevated religion to such a level that we don't pay attention to other things that are critical. We become intolerant as a people. And that's why we find when you have two strong religions competing for attention.
Is this a matter of intolerance, or this is a matter of safety and security? Because you also said something about, improving the issue of justice, access to justice. Give you an instance. This is the Vanguard this morning. U.S. report raises concerns over security justice in Nigeria.
Yes.
If you look at the riders, identifies lengthy pretrial detention, delays
So
as
let's
major challenges.
take security, for instance.
Yes.
And let me take off from what happened over the weekend when we have the Ansaru sect leaders, two of them, Al-Nigeria and Mahmoud Al-Mahmouda, they were arrested of the very dreaded terrorist gang. We had the U.S. mission in Nigeria commend the Nigerian security forces and the Nigerian government that this is a significant whatever. This wouldn't have happened within a few days. It's been a continuous one. We've had our security forces bring down and neutralize more than 1,300 such leaders over time. When it comes to security, it's a progression. There's no silver bullet to it. But I want to also tie it to judiciary. Of course, we know there are more than 2 reforms, judiciary reforms taking place, enabled by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to deal with either pre-trial delays and etc. So these reforms are ongoing. You can take them in isolation. And I know I did respond to Vanguard. If you read that, you will see my response.
I was just going to say that you actually did a response to that particular situation. And of course, you know, when it comes to these killings across the country, it also, one other thing that maybe doesn't help with the narrative is also the fact that the governors in these states keep talking about how this is a genocide. This is not a farmer, this is not a quarrel. This is a deliberate attempt to take over our lands. It is a deliberate thing.
So the question then arises, who is the chief security officer of the states?
The governor is.
Because I remember not twice, I remember the president saying, the governors have to take charge.
Okay.
Are the governors at top of the situation? Are they taking the necessary steps? Are they neutral? I know neutrality becomes extremely difficult if you are from that state and your people are being attacked ceaselessly. But I think there's a role for subnationals, because it is not for just the fun of it that governors in our constitution are made the chief security officers. Now, if your security apparatus within the state fails you, you have that opportunity and chance to request appropriate support from the center. Is that happening, or are the governors themselves living in self-denial? Because each time it happens, they run to Abuja or cry to. The question is, what have you done in your state to nip this in the bud? The understanding is that the governors understand better.
Because they're on ground.
Because they're on ground.
Okay.
Now, they're taking the necessary steps, preemptive, because what you have happen all the time is when it happens, we hear the noise. We see the newspaper headlines. What have you done before? And when it comes to security, it's about being preemptive, not reactive thereafter.
I want to be able to get you, just a moment, Mark. You responded. I saw your article on your Facebook. Actually, I follow you on Facebook, so I basically, you respond to everything. So Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala's visit.
Absolutely.
And you said earlier last week, 2 validations came from both the Anambra State Governor, Dr. Soludo, and Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. And of course, it does feel, and it's not just you, other people who are spokespersons of the president. It's like you take the first part of Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala's statement and forget the second part.
I did address the second part.
Because the second part of that thing is the most important part of it, where she says that safety nets need to be...
I did address it. If you scroll down...
So I look, you put up NEL Fund. You said you mentioned NEL Fund as one of the safety nets.
So let me speak to the social safety nets.
Okay, so that's the question. What safety nets are in place? And do you agree with her that there have to be more safety nets to cushion the impact of these important policies on the Nigerian people?
Absolutely. I agree with her on 2 grounds. The first ground is the fact that the macroeconomic stability we now enjoy is as a result of the reforms, the Bola Ahmed Tinubu reforms, which the World Bank itself has said those reforms were done in an anticipatory manner. If not, we will have suffered more impact as it is. So the reforms were timely as they came in. And we see the macroeconomic stability now. The figures are there, the reserves, the GDP going up, the 486 billion naira GDP as we see it. We see these green lights ahead. So I agree with her. And given credentials, you know that she has the numbers, and she must have also worked on the numbers. The other part of safety, social safety nets, that speaks more to the micro of the macro reforms you're getting. Beyond NEL Fund, I'm going to just stretch it a little bit. When you talk about social safety nets, you're talking about policies and programs that impact the people. And when you look at other climes too, safety nets refers to, for instance, you look at the conditional cash transfer. Yes. It's gone to about 5 million. What we need to do is that at least it has to go to between 10 and 15 million people before that comes. So that's why we need to do more. But right now, the government is on the right track. 5 million has gone out. We're going to stretch that further. That's one. Two, you look at NEL fund. You know, don't let us just walk over it, because before NEL fund, there was nothing. So when you have about 400,000, 86 billion going to support the students in school, and you have 36 billion as stipends. The last time we had bursary was several years ago. That's the safety net there somewhere. The support going to the ginger farmers, 1.5 billion. The 500,000 young farmers, smallhold farmers, collecting direct support. That's part of NEL fund. Talk about yesterday. You talk about the CS. CS is now free. Then you talk about the kidney dialysis, brought down from 50,000 to 12,000, a 75% reduction. That's social safety net. So when you understand the concept of social safety net, it's trying to subsidize some of the important things that the Nigerian people deal with on a daily basis. And do I agree that this needs to be scaled up? Absolutely. And we see a president committed to doing that.
I mean, it's a very dicey one, you know, especially when we look at the economic situation in the country. You hear this every day. You're being trolled on Twitter a lot,
absolutely,
on X a lot. But you know, it's understandable. That's how governance is. Right. The economic situation of the Nigerian has dwindled. You cannot pretend that that is not the case. Yeah. Now, when we look at the quality of the life of the Nigerian in the past 2 years, it has dropped. And I hear the government, I hear you and other spokespersons of the president saying, look, this is growing pains, where we're doing what we can. It's stabilized, we're on the road to recovery. Absolutely. The question is, can the Nigerian people trust that if they give you the elections again in 2027, can they trust that their lives will be better under this administration?
Absolutely. You know, oftentimes they say the morning shows the day. This first time is 4 years for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And in 4 years, we've just been halfway 2 years. And in those 2 years, at this point, we can point to about 10, you know, green positive indicators. It's typically, I like to talk about building a house. You know, you want a beautiful house, okay? Air conditioned, well equipped. So you have a choice to pay attention to the foundation. And the foundation is often destructive. You break the ground, you break the rock, you mix the concrete. You know, you have a choice to do it properly so that the house you build eventually will stand firm, whatever you put on it, the superstructure that comes on it. And it might look simplistic, but I'm saying that if you look at the trajectory of the Nigerian economy in the last 20 years, you start to wonder. We're in Japan right now. Japan is the 4th largest economy in the world, 4.2 trillion GDP. Nigeria is still at 485 GDP right now. We're trying to shoot for 1 trillion. We have to take certain steps to get there. You can't eat eggs without breaking omelette. Now, you have a president who has taken those tough decisions. And I know people have had this over and over again. And we often say, you know, you see the cup half empty. You either see the cup half empty or half full. And right now, I see the cup half full because we have progressive policies. We have a commitment on the part of the president. We also have indicators that have been saluted, not by Okonjo-Iweala, but by the World Bank and Blue Bank and other bodies who ordinarily are reputed for giving very clear verdicts about what's going on.
Mr. Berry, I would like to say that for me, I see several cups. And yes,
I'm looking at one cup. Right?
No, several cups. And I think it will be left to Nigerians to aggregate what is in these separate cups, right. You know, as to which cup is full or which cup is filling up and which cup is actually emptying down. But one of the areas, and I have to circle back to the issue of security, because the institutions that are actually measuring these instances around security and the dignity of life, some of them are Nigerian institutions. And what they're seeing is not progress. What they're actually seeing are things that should give all of us cause for concern, especially with regards to the security and the foundational nature of our country? Will we survive, for instance, another 50, 100 years as Nigeria? These are questions that, you know, fundamental questions that people are asking, because first and foremost, people want to know if they can go about their duty. If the fundamental role of government is to provide for the safety, beg your pardon, the security and welfare
it is. That's enshrined in the Constitution.
Of citizens. And we're seeing the NHRC, the National Human Rights Commission, reporting a spike in killings of children, of elderly, especially vigilantes and children, spiking killings. And we're also seeing complaints of human rights, violations, increasing by as much as 10% month on month. They do this thing on a monthly basis.
You know what I also said?
Shouldn't we be concerned? I mean, while we can be making some progress economically speaking, if our security, you know, there'll be questions there.
I think we've left the jeopardy zone. Mope, if you back up perhaps some 5, 6 years, even from the former President Jonathan's era, when we had the Boko Haram, we had the Sambisa forest, this entire country was under a heavy insecurity cloud. So you take it from that time to where we are now. And I think the human rights group ought to do a comparison. I'm saying that we've seen an improvement. The issue of security, there's no silver bullet. Progressively, that will be addressed. But when you also look at other countries, beyond our data comparison from 5, 10 years ago, can you look at other countries within the region? The issue of human rights abuses do occur, will occur. But the response of the necessary institutions, judiciary, security, is what matters. And I think that's what should be our focus. Can you stop people from committing crimes? In spite of the fact that there are laws, there are punishments, there's a penal code, people still commit crimes. So our interrogations should stay with the security agencies.
But there's also the root cause. Let me give you, as we're wrapping up, because we need to address that. Let's say with the World Food Program, let's use that as an example. We're seeing from the United Nations a complaint basically telling us that we are moving our country into a situation where our youth will enter into the open arms of Boko Haram because of the poverty levels in places in the north.
You know, that prediction, we've seen it.
It's a prediction that they've just made,
done it several
because of the cancellation of the funding for the World Food Program. So hunger is rife, and we're entering into a food insecurity situation. What kind of safety nets can the government be putting in place at this moment to help that situation, so that we do not come here 5 years later and say the numbers of Boko Haram recruits have increased? Of course, this is the problem that led to that.
Well, you know, we did not know that we'll wake up suddenly and find a president of a leading country in the world withdraw support from global organizations that have helped. You know, and I'm being a bit diplomatic here, not putting out the name. So every country is responding. Health, all the funding coming from health have reduced. Funding coming for food supply have reduced, USAID, and all of that. So Nigeria finds itself in that position. But let me also say, when you look at how much has been budgeted in the 2025 budget alone for agriculture, when you look at, I know there's 10,000 tractors, 2,000 tractors have come in, when you look at that. When you look at the funding going to the agricultural sector, when it comes to smallholds, individual farmers, when you look at the return of the commodity boards, you see very well planned effort towards boosting food production. And I think what's important is the urban-rural drift that we want to achieve. But let me say this. On August 13th, in Council, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu announced a new program, Renewed Hope World Development Program, targeting 8,940 wards, directing governors to ensure that at least 1,000 young enterprises are carried along and funded. For me, I think that is revolutionary because it signals that this country is moving from mere consumption to production. And that production will be in agriculture, will be in several other areas. I think if that is well implemented, we might be able to address not just the issue of food scarcity, but also the issue of the security, the issue of our young people who are out there doing nothing, because this is a great opportunity. 8,940 words, 1,000 jobs. You do the math. It's revolutionary.
Well, Mr. Sondidari, we certainly will keep tabs with you because this is ongoing. We have to thank you so much for coming to our studios this morning.
Thank you.
Mr. Sondidari is a special advisor to the President on Media and Communications.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, that's where we wrap up today's edition of Sunrise Daily. Thank you so much for being a part of the program. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
Have a great rest of your day. I'm Kayla Magwa.
Goodbye.